Welcome back, everybody. Here's the promised video on making cypress trees. These are huge in 1/24th scale. They're about 22 inches tall, and from the floor to the top of the tree, it's about 80 inches. Well, let's get started. First thing I did was I found some 1/2-inch dowels laying around the house and started carving it into a conical shape using a utility knife. The next step was to drill a hole in the bottom of each one of my tree armatures so that I could put a pin in it. I put a little dab of super glue and then put in a metal wire so that it would make planting them a little bit easier. The next step was to spray coat the wood so I could seal it. I use a can of primer. And here is the resulting trees. Next step was I needed to even out some of the landscaping so it wasn't so rocky. I flattened it a little bit, so I used some tape. And the next thing I did was I laid down some plaster impregnated gauze that you've seen me use in the past. And once I lay it down dry, I then spray it with a mister full of water. While that was drying, I started roughing up and painting each one of the dowels. Here I am putting in a gray coat on top of the now dry dowel. And with the texture already applied to it using a rasp and a file, I was able to get some detailing. The next thing is to add the armatures. This is floral wire that I bought on Amazon, and I will put a link in the show notes. I'm using a pin here, a dental pick, to gouge the wood and insert the floral wire. I used progressively larger floral wire to the bottom so that I had an overall conical shape. After the wire is dry, you can trim it with scissors. Next step was using some spray glue and adding some 7mm static grass. This was the first step. The key thing when you're using spray adhesive is to spray away from the trunk, and you're only doing the branches. Here I am first adding about 7mm long static grass. The color doesn't matter at this point because what I'll be doing is spraying it brown to simulate dead leaves underneath all of the future static grass layers. After I sprayed it with a brown primer, I then began using a medium green grass fiber. Here I'm showing you the various fibers that I'm using. I spray it again and add it to the sprayed glued area and building up the layers. Generally, I did a light tan on the bottom where they're showing where no light would be present, medium green overall, and then on the very top, I added some darker green. The next step is to plant the tree onto the layout. This is probably the hardest part because the tree is so top heavy that you need to glue it down with something like epoxy glue, hold it with a clamp, and wait for it to dry. After you succeed in getting it to dry, it may not be perfect, but the next step is to make the trunk. Using Durham's water putty, I began to carve the trunk using a dental pick. This is one of the more satisfying parts of the whole project. And once this Durham water putty dries, it will add to the stiffening of the planting of the tree, and it'll actually be the one doing most of the work of keeping your tree upright. And let the Durham's water putty do its job and dry completely. After that, you can start painting it. using your pictures as a reference, look for the color. My reference photos showed a grayish black tree trunk, so I used a medium gray, first black overall so that I can have all the dark recesses show up as black, and then I dry brushed over this a medium gray and then a light gray. After painting the tree trunk, I painted a little bit of green on the appropriate side of the tree with some green to simulate moss. One thing I did not film was I sprinkled a little bit of some green flocking to simulate the moss too. Next step is to add some white glue to start to accept the landscaping, like the grasses and the dried grasses that I've added. So I sprinkled first some light straw colored fiber to simulate some of the dead grass that would occur underneath trees because there's a lack of light. And then I started going in with other colors of green to in between the various roots of the tree. While I was waiting for some of the grasses to dry, I started laying in some cardboard to plan out where my dirt road was going to go. This was exciting because it started making it easier for me to kind of conceptualize the dirt country road. I also carved a young lady and a cow for the scene, and I thought it really added to the whole rural scene. Making the trees was not complicated, but it was time-consuming. Each one of these trees took me about a full day to make. But if you put on a podcast or some music and you listen and you just relax, this is a very relaxing, not very nerve-wracking, not very fiddly. It was an easy project. It's just time-consuming. But it does add a lot of creativity to the scene and really sells the idea that you're in the country, and it hopefully lends itself to adding the whole Italian feel. And without further ado, here are some other scenes of the trees and the countryside scenes that I have been working on. There's more to be done, like the creation of a vineyard, filling out some more of the landscaping, but I wanted to get this video out because it's been over a month since the last video. And with that, enjoy. Thank you for visiting the little fishing village of Amalfitana. Please consider hitting the like button and subscribing. Until next time, arrivederci.